Have you ever seen a car that runs on steam? It might sound like something out of a science fiction novel, but steam-powered cars were once how it was. Well, way back in 1769, a French inventor named Nicolas Cugnot built the first one. This was a breakout moment in the history of transportation. It looked more like a big, funny-looking tricycle than a car. Imagine a large, bulky frame with 3 wheels and a steam engine attached to it. The steam car was slow and clunky. It wasn't good for speed or anything like that, but it was a marvel for its time. It could only go a few miles per hour. You could probably walk faster than this early vehicle. And it had to stop every few minutes to build up more steam. This meant that long journeys were not possible. Can you imagine having to stop for a steam break every few blocks? It would make getting anywhere would take forever, but hey, it was the first car ever. Much better than a horse and cart, like in the cowboy movies. Nicolas Cugnot's idea got the wheels turning for the future of cars we have today. Steam was already being used in trains and factories, but using it to a car was a very new idea. Roads back then were not meant for cars, so the fact that his idea meant cars go drive anywhere. Back then the roads were not the best, had to navigate rough, uneven terrain. They could be rough and uneven, not smooth like today. Over the next few years, many other people copied this idea and made the cars even better. Until one day some said, let's use gasoline. Today we have cars that are faster, look nicer and last longer. But it all started with that slow, clunky steam car. So next time you see a car zooming down the highway, remember Nicolas Cugnot and his steam-powered tricycle. It may have sputtered and spat, but where it all started. It just shows what people can come up with when they put their mind to it. And who knows? Maybe in the future we'll look back at today's cars with the same sense of wonder and amusement that we feel when we think about Cugnot's steam car. The world of transportation moving forward, and it all began with a little steam-powered tricycle. Fast forward to 1886 in Germany. It was a time of great change. The streets were bustling with horse-drawn carriages, and the air was filled with the sounds of industry. People were always looking for new ways to make life easier. A man named Carl Benz invented something amazing, a car powered by gasoline. This was a great new invention that would change the world forever. Before this, people relied on horses or steam engines to get around, but Carl Benz had an idea of a future where cars would be powered by gasoline. This car had an engine that used gasoline to make it go. The engine was a great idea, with many parts inside working together to make it move. Carl Benz's car was faster and better than the old steam car. Steam cars were bulky and needed a lot of looking after, but Benz's gasoline car looked cool and just better. It could travel longer distances without needing to stop for fuel or water. But people were still a little afraid of this invention. They had never seen anything like it before, and the idea of a car powered by gasoline seemed strange and even dangerous to some. They weren't sure if it was safe. Newspapers were filled with articles questioning the safety of these new cars, and many people were afraid to try out this new idea. They worried about accidents and if the new gasoline engine would be any good. That's where Bertha Benz, Carl's amazing wife, stepped in. She believed in her husband's invention and wanted to prove to the world that it was safe and reliable. Bertha was a strong and determined woman, and she was ready to take on the challenge. She took the car on a 66-mile road trip. This was a bold and daring move, as no one had ever attempted such a long journey in a car before. Bertha's trip was filled with challenges, but she was determined to succeed. It was the first long-distance car trip ever. Bertha's journey took her through towns and villages, and she had to stop several times to make repairs and refuel. But she kept going, and her trip became a historic event. Bertha Benz showed the world that cars could be reliable and fun. Her successful journey proved that the gasoline-powered car was not only a good way to get around, but also an exciting new way to travel. People began to see what you could do with these new type of cars, and many people all over the world started to use them. In America, a man named Henry Ford had a new idea. He wanted to make cars that anyone could buy, even if you were not a rich person. At the time, only rich people could buy a car. Ford's idea was to change that and make cars a common sight on the streets, available to the average person. In 1908, he made the Model T, a car that would go down in history. The Model T was designed to be simple and sturdy, yet better and easy to look after. It was a car that could handle the rough roads of the time and still be affordable for the average American family. It was a simple, sturdy car that anyone could buy. The Model T quickly became popular because it was practical and dependable. Families could use it for daily commutes, farmers could use it for transporting goods, and it even became a favorite for adventurous road trips. To make lots of cars quickly and easily, Henry Ford created the assembly line. This was another new idea he had. Before the assembly line, cars were built one at a time by skilled craftsmen, which was a slow and expensive process. With the assembly line, each worker had one job to do in making the car. This meant that workers became very good at their jobs, whether it was putting on the wheels, tightening the bolts, or installing the engine. This way of making cars was a great idea. It meant Henry Ford could make cars at a much faster rate than ever before. The assembly line was copied by many other industrias all around the world because it was such a great idea. The assembly line made it much faster and cheaper to build cars. This reduction in costs meant that Ford could sell the Model T at a lower price, making it affordable for more people. Because the assembly line was quick, it also meant that Ford could produce a large number of cars to meet the growing demand. Soon Model Ts were rolling off the assembly lines and onto the roads. The Model T became a symbol of the American dream, representing freedom and mobility. It changed the way people lived and worked, making it possible for them to travel greater distances and explore new opportunities. It was the beginning of the cars of today. The 1920s were a roaring good time for cars. They came in bright colors like sunshine yellow, fire engine red, and ocean blue. People loved to take their fancy new cars for spins on the open road. Families piled into their cars for road trips to visit family or see new places. Roadside diners popped up everywhere to feed hungry travelers. The car was changing the way people lived and explored the world. Road trip, anyone? Cars go to war. When World War II started in the 1940s, car factories switched gears. Instead of making shiny new cars for families, they built tough jeeps, trucks, and ambulances for soldiers. Cars were very important in the war effort. They moved troops, delivered supplies, and even served as makeshift ambulances. After the war, car production went back to normal, but the war had changed the way cars were designed and built. Cars get fins. The 1950s were all about style. Cars were designed to look sleek and futuristic like rockets. They had big, beautiful tail fins, shiny chrome bumpers, and big engines, like the cars you can see in those old movies. The 1950s also saw a new kind of engine, the jet engine. While jet engines were mostly used in airplanes, they gave people ideas on how to make cars faster and more powerful. Muscle cars and saving gas. In the 1960s, muscle cars roared onto the scene. These cars had powerful engines and sporty designs. They were all about speed and performance, but by the 1970s, people started to worry about saving gas. Cars became smaller and did not use so much fuel. Cars get computers. The 1980s and 1990s were all about technology. Cars started to get computers and electronics. Power windows, power locks, and even car phones became more common. Can you imagine a time when you couldn't talk on the phone in the car? These new features made cars safer and more comfortable to drive. Remember cassette players in cars? Those were cool back then. Electric cars are here. In the 2000s, people became more concerned about protecting the environment. Car companies started making hybrid cars that used both gas and electricity. Then came electric cars that ran entirely on electricity. These eco-friendly cars helped reduce pollution and save energy. Cars that drive themselves. Hold on tight because the future of cars is here. Self-driving cars are being developed that can drive themselves without a human driver. These cars use sensors, cameras, and artificial intelligence to navigate roads safely. Imagine a future where cars can take you wherever you want to go while you sit back and relax. The future of cars is going to be an amazing ride.